a 190-pound Boerboel that had been living in a parking lot for 9 days. Too big to rehome. Too much, everyone said, for a woman who could barely get herself out of bed in the morning. That is what they told Nora when she knelt down on the wet asphalt and let him press his enormous head into her chest. They were certain she was making a mistake. They were certain she was the one doing the rescuing. Not a single one of them understood yet that it was about to be the other way around. Nora Bennett was 29 and she had moved to Mill Valley, California 8 months earlier for a job she mostly took so she would have a reason to leave the house. She lived alone in a small rented bungalow tucked under the redwoods, the kind of quiet street people dream about, and she hated how silent it was. Her mother had died the previous spring after a long illness, and Nora had spent the year afterward learning that grief is not loud. It does not scream. It just sits in the empty chair across from you and waits. She was functioning. She went to work, paid her bills, answered her sister's calls. She simply was not really living, and she knew it, and she had no idea how to say that out loud to anyone. She found Otis on a Thursday, in the rain, in the far corner of the grocery store parking lot off Miller Avenue, a huge fawn-colored dog with a black mask and a body like a small bear, curled against a concrete pillar, soaked to the skin. A teenage bagger named Marcus came out on his break and told her the dog had been there 9 days. Somebody had opened a car door, put him out, and driven off. Marcus and a couple of the other kids had been sneaking him hot dogs from the deli and a bowl of water, but the manager wanted him gone by the weekend. "He won't let anyone close," Marcus said. "He just sits there watching the road." Nora crouched down 20 feet away and said nothing. After a long while, the 190-pound dog stood up, crossed the wet lot on stiff legs, and laid his soaking head against her chest like he had finally found the person he had been waiting 9 days for. Her sister Paige thought she had lost her mind. "You can barely take care of yourself," Paige said, not unkindly, "and now you want a 200-pound dog?" The vet who looked him over put his weight at 190 and his age around 4, found no chip, no record, nothing at all. "He's healthy," the vet said. "He's just been thrown away." The neighbors had their opinions too. A man 2 doors down asked if a dog that size was really safe on a street with kids. A woman at the dog park scooped up her terrier the second Otis lumbered in. Nora heard every word of it, but she had already given him a name, and a dog with a name is not a dog you hand back. Otis. After her mother's favorite old record, the one that still sat on a shelf, Nora had not been able to bring herself to touch in a year. I can tell you're still here and still haven't subscribed, and that quietly breaks my heart. Hit subscribe. What Otis did for Nora later that winter is the entire reason this story is worth telling. The first thing Nora learned about Otis was that he leaned. Not jumped, not pawed. He leaned. He would walk up, turn sideways, and slowly tip all 190 pounds of himself against her legs until she either braced or sat down. The second thing she learned was that he was frightened of nearly everything: the dishwasher, the mail slot, his cone reflection in the oven door. The most intimidating dog on the street spent his first week hiding behind the kitchen island every time the ice maker dropped. But the third thing she learned was the one that mattered. When Nora went quiet, when she sank down onto the kitchen floor with her back against the cabinets, the way she did on the days the weight of everything got to be too much, Otis would come and lay his whole body across her lap, slow and deliberate, until she could feel her own racing heart begin to slow to the steady rise and fall of his. It was the strangest comfort Nora had ever known, being pinned to the floor by an animal big enough to knock down a door, and feeling, for the first time in many long months, completely and impossibly safe. Slowly, almost without noticing, Nora's whole life rearranged itself around him. A 190-pound dog has to be walked, so she walked every morning at 6:52 down to the creek and back, whether she felt like it or not. A 190-pound dog has to be fed, so she got up. He had to go to the vet, the groomer, the trail, so she went out into the world again, and the world slowly stopped feeling like a place she was only visiting. People who used to cross the street started stopping to ask about him. Marcus asked for a photo every single time she shopped. If you have ever been pulled back toward life by something that simply needed you, then you already understand exactly what was happening to Nora, even though she could not see it yet. She thought she was the one taking care of Otis. She had not yet realized that Otis was the only reason she was taking care of herself. There was one habit of his she never got tired of. Every evening, right as the light turned gold through the redwoods, Nora's would pad over to the front door, pick up whichever shoe she had kicked off last, carry it to the couch, and set it gently in her lap. Not chewed, just delivered. Paige thought it was the strangest thing she had ever seen a dog do. Nora knew exactly what it was. It was a 190-pound dog telling her, in the only language he had, that she was home now, that she was not going anywhere, and that he was never going anywhere either. There were still bad days, the kind that arrive without warning. A song in the grocery store, a voicemail she could not make herself delete, her mother's handwriting on the back of an old photograph. On those days, Nora would come home, drop her keys, and sink straight down onto the floor. And every single time, without fail, Otis was already moving toward her before she even landed. He seemed to know the difference between tired and broken, and he never once got it wrong. For 300 and some days, that was the quiet rhythm of their life together. And then came the night of February 14th, the 1-year mark, the day Nora had been silently dreading from the moment the calendar turned. A storm had rolled in off the Pacific, and the redwoods were groaning in the wind. Nora had not slept. At 3:09 in the morning, she was sitting on the bathroom floor in the dark, and the grief that had spent an entire year sitting so politely in the empty chair finally stood up and put both hands around her throat. Her chest locked. She could not pull a full breath. The room tilted under her. It was the worst it had ever been. A whole year of held back everything, arriving at once in the dark. And for the first time in a long time, she was truly frightened of how alone she was. She did not have to call him. Otis was already there. He came through the door he had nudged open with his nose, and he did not bark and he did not fuss. He climbed into her lap the way he had 100 times on the kitchen floor, and he pressed all 190 pounds of himself against her chest. Slow and heavy and certain, exactly the way he had leaned against her that first afternoon in the rain. So Nora did the only thing she could do. She wrapped both arms around his neck and she breathed. In for the slow count of his heartbeat, out for the count of his. The way you steady yourself against the one thing in the room that will not move. Little by little, the floor stopped tilting. Little by little, the hands let go of her throat. She stayed there on the cool tile until the storm passed, and the gray light came up through the trees. Holding on to a dog the whole street had called too much, and somewhere in those long hours, she finally understood the thing she had missed all year. She had pulled Otis out of a parking lot one rainy Thursday. He had been quietly pulling her out of something far deeper every single day since. Something changed after that night, not all at once. Healing almost never happens all at once. But Nora started talking about her mother again instead of going silent the moment her name came up. She set the old record back on the shelf where she could see it, and she stopped flinching when she did. She called Paige one Sunday and laughed, really laughed, the kind that surprises you, and her sister had to pull the phone from her ear just to be sure she had heard it right. Some stories are not about being saved one time. They are about being saved a little every single day by something that simply refuses to leave the room. That was Otis. He just refused to leave. The street came around the way streets eventually do. The man who had worried about a dog that size now keeps a jar of treats by his front door for him. The woman from the dog park lets her terrier sleep curled against Otis's enormous side. Marcus, the bagger who had kept a thrown-away stray alive on stolen hot dogs for 9 days, still gets a visit every single week, still grins like it is the best part of his whole shift, because in a way, the entire thing started with a kid and a deli counter and a dog nobody else would feed. Today, Otis is 6. He still leans, he still hides from the dishwasher, and still loses staring contests with his own reflection in the oven door. He still carries her shoe to the couch every evening, and he still lays his enormous head against Nora's chest when she sits down, and she still takes his face in both her hands the way she did that first wet afternoon in the parking lot, and tells him he is a good boy, and means it more than she has ever meant anything in her life. The little bungalow under the redwoods is not silent anymore. It is full of the sound of a 190-pound dog snoring, and the sound of a woman who finally, after one long and impossibly quiet year, came back to life. Because the truth about rescue is that it almost never runs in only one direction. We like to believe we're the ones doing the saving. We kneel down on the wet asphalt and we open up our homes and we tell ourselves how good we are for it. And then, on the night the floor falls out from under us, the very thing we rescued turns around and rescues us right back. Sometimes the dog the whole world calls too much is exactly as much as a person needs. So tell me honestly, would you have taken in a 190-pound dog on the days you could barely carry yourself? Or would you have listened to every voice that said it was too much? Tell me in the comments.